Hi Frank, I'm aware that we probably haven't spoken before. So I'm pretty sure I did check in my CRM to make sure that I hadn't spoken to any member of your team before, and I don't think I have. But a really quick 20 seconds on Fuel Ventures, just to set that context. We are a seed fund. We're writing £1 to £3 million tickets. We're generally quite sector agnostic. So our official investment remit is marketplaces, platforms, and SaaS model businesses. Very broad, which is really by design. We want to make sure that we can create a diverse portfolio of investments at the earliest stages, and we'll do about 10 to 15 investments a year from our core fund, from our seed fund. Founded by an ex-founder called Mark Pearson. Mark set up Fuel after exiting his business and runs our business as a CEO MD, but is also a very active investor in the fund. And then we raise our money from other ultra high net worth individuals. That's us. Super quick nutshell. I don't want to take any time from you at all. I think for me, a really good place to start is give me the 2-minute elevator pitch on what you're building at Salesforge, and I can then go into some questions afterwards.
Sure, sounds good. So Frank, I've spent actually over a decade in sales. Started my career at Google and then worked for a bunch of SaaS companies out of London. And in my last gig, I led the sales team of about 50. And this is where I had my such epiphany moment where in a sales-led company, typically the only way to attain your pipeline target was essentially hiring a bunch more reps. And also VCs will always tell you, just hire more reps, to keep on scaling. And I thought to myself, why would you want to hire more people? Why wouldn't the software actually scale? So I met a couple of co-founders last year through YC Matchmaking platform, and we went on to build essentially a software stack, so multiple softwares with a vision to reduce headcount and do so, so attain pipeline target and reduce the headcount, but to do so with the highest probability possible using big data. So back June last year, we shipped our initial software and really focusing on the first channel that we wanted to tackle, which was email, and specifically going after email deliverability problem that exists in the space, where you have these sort of mega trends where essentially there's more and more emails being sent, there's more bad actors in the email ecosystem. So really going down first after email as the problem before kind of unlocking the other channels, being LinkedIn and voice. But we do that with what we call humans in mind, so essentially running your sales team within the software, but also being able to blend with AI agents all in the single software. So right now, if you log into Salesforge today, you're able to set up your team, onboard it. Doesn't matter how many people you have, but also in tandem, you're able to set up AI agents that can autonomously execute a top of funnel motion, meaning picking out leads, engaging with the prospect, and then if a prospect replies back, then we reply back to that prospect all the way down to booking an actual meeting. So currently we have about 2,000 customers over the last 15 months. We scaled quite a bit. And along those last 15 months, we also added other softwares as part of the ecosystem to email infrastructure products and a warm-up solution as well to boost your email deliverability. So really, we're building multiple different softwares because what we're building out is an ecosystem of tools to help you really solve that pipeline problem and for us to become the #1 pipeline building software in the market. So yeah.
Got you. And when you talk about 2,000 customers, what does a customer mean to you? Is a customer a company, or are there multiple customers that sit within an individual company?
It's a subscription, so it's an actual business. So we don't charge per seat, we charge for consumption. So that means every subscription of one of the products, we charge for consumption for that particular product.
Right.
So it's not a user, it's a business.
Right, okay, understood. And take me through the I guess, one, the implementation, but two, how that's received. I mean, obviously, you've seen some great success with the companies that you work with. Otherwise, I don't think you would have seen the growth that you have. But how is it received on the other end? Do the people that are interacting with them know they're talking to an AI agent? Do they think they're talking to a real person? And does that cause any friction between the potential customer and your customer?
That's a good question. So when it comes to AI agent specific motion, so we have not seen a lot of friction between the prospect, so the potential buyer and the seller yet. So typically when a user comes to us, or a company comes to us, if they do decide to go down the AI agent path, we do the whole setup literally in about 5 minutes, from setting up the infrastructure to setting up the agent, the ICP, which leads to go out and stuff like that. And then typically within 24 hours, then the agent is able to engage with your prospects by crafting a unique email to every single one of those individuals. And the type of infrastructure that's being set up, so each email account typically mimics the actual user or the seller. So meaning a sales rep. So let's say James Smith, we would set up a James Smith email account, and that's what's being used by the AI agent. But ultimately, by delivering a unique email to every single prospect, so the way we do that is we look at what do you sell as a business. You can also upload a lot of your company data, whether that's a sales playbook, product information, stuff like that, and then we marry that to what we call the buy data. So what do we know about every single potential buyer based on publicly available data? So whether that's LinkedIn data, website data, or CRM data. So we marry these two data sets, and this is how we compute them, these unique emails in any language. So by delivering a highly relevant and personalized email to every single individual, we'll typically see a 2x relative lift versus using a template. So let's say if your baseline currently in the world of email and engaging with prospects is about 2%, the reply rate, you'll probably see at least 4% reply rate. But that's an example of a lift, but really what an agentic capability does is allows you to augment your sales team with autonomous capabilities. And the reason why you would do that is, let's say you're hiring sales rep to go after accounts over 500 employees, but it doesn't make sense for you to go after accounts below 500 employees, as an example. So this is an example where you then apply AI agents for that particular segment. So typically companies would look at it from a sort of cost standpoint, or where maybe there's way too many accounts and the deal size is just not big enough. There's various sort of different factors of why people choose to go down the route of using AI agents.
At what point is the real James Smith coming back into that process and taking over from the AI agent? Is there a point where that doesn't happen and actually the AI agent tracks that all the way from initial communication to close?
So there's two options in the software. One is what's called the copilot mode. So that means if a prospect actually replies back to you, the human takes over. And there's the full-on autopilot mode, which means let's say James Smith would actually book in a meeting in the calendar of a rep.
Got you. And does that become a question about customer size, like we talked about earlier? So if the customer is potentially a low-value customer, from a margin perspective, you don't want someone spending a significant amount of time on it. You might just get an AI agent to do the whole process. Whereas actually, if it's a high-value customer who appreciates the face time and needs a hand to shake, actually, it's good to get the original agent back in. Cool. The thing that I'm interested the most in this space, when I think about AI and sales, it seems to be, if I think about what I've seen over the course of the last 12 months, almost the lowest hanging fruit, right? We've seen this explosion of businesses that sit within this space and are specifically designed to help companies, sales teams, whatever it might be, to close new deals. And they all sit at slightly different spaces. You get some which integrate very directly with the CRM, and it's about making sure that the CRM has the correct information, also come to conclusions. You have some that obviously deal with the agent side of things. They sit at all different levels. When you're thinking about differentiation, what for you, when you walk into a potential customer, what are you coming up against? What are they saying? Well, actually, we already spend XYZ dollars on XYZ. And actually, you now have to pull those dollars from another business, even if it sits somewhere else in the tech stack. Do you see them using a lot of things like that, or is it still very blue ocean?
No, so I think because of the markets the way they are today, which means demand is relatively low for many of the customers that we're speaking to. They're looking at ways of maximizing essentially pipeline coverage. So they're currently running a team, and they're just looking at ways how they can increase the pipeline significantly. And so because it takes about literally 10 minutes to set up an agent, the setup cost and involvement is relatively low. So there's quite a bit of appetite to be testing a solution like this, which is also being fully supervised by our customer success managers as well. So we're typically seeing that being added typically on top of the existing tech stack that they currently have, but then at some point eventually we actually start replacing more of the sales tech that
And take me through that competitive landscape as you see it. And I guess there's two sub questions to that, right? Which is, who is the incumbent, or is there an incumbent that you spend the most time displacing within the conversations that you have? And actually, then who is the competitor that they might not have the biggest market penetration, or they might not be the competitor that you see the most, but who has the best offering comparable to yours? Who's the one that you respect the most?
So, so there's a lot of softwares that essentially do what's called sequencing, and it's all run by humans. Whether you've got the biggest players in the space called Outreach and Salesloft, that are the first companies that really entered the sales engagement market, and then you on the other side you have agentic softwares like 11x, AI SDR, or Artisan, etc. And then there's also another segment that actually just focuses on durability called Smart Leader, Instant, etc. So there are quite a few players in the space. And the way that we differentiate is we don't say, hey, the future is agentic only or something else, but we say, our positioning is that we're blending humans and AI agents in the single software. This is really how you can maximize pipeline coverage. But anybody that's really building agents these days, are they all using the same publicly available LLMs? So agents themselves are a commodity these days. Whereas what we're looking to do in about a couple months' time is to essentially leverage our customers' data to then compute contextually highly relevant emails for any industry and any ICP. And this is how we're looking to really to differentiate against any other solution in the market.
Got you. And I guess, it might be a silly question, right? Which is about your go-to-market. I assume you're using the platform yourself, right? Which, based on the fact that you're growing like a weed, probably is a pretty good use case, user study, right?
Yes.
And how big is your internal sales team? Like, is it a case again? How are you using it internally, and how are you managing your outbound and your conversations on that basis?
Sure. I'll give you an example. So, we scaled to about $1 million in ARR with just a team of 4.
Right.
So, and then we scaled to $2 million without a single salesperson and a single person in marketing. Then we started to hire from there and then on. But right now we only have 2 people in sales only, and 2 people in marketing. So very, very lean and mean team. And this is ultimately what we'll want to achieve, want to do also for other companies. Essentially make leaner and meaner teams in sales. Whether you're using the agentic capabilities or not, there's other things that we do to keep the headcount lean. So whether we attacking email deliverability or provisioning agentic capabilities, but we are building multiple software. So we currently have 4 because we go down the path of essentially having multi-product essentially platform. And we're going to build another 4 softwares actually over the next 12 months. To really for any customer out there to come to us, just like Apple, and essentially buy multiple products from us. And that will ensure sort of ease of use, because naturally every software is natively integrated with each other. There's beautiful data flows between the softwares, and stuff like that. So yeah.
And are you seeing any restrictions at the moment within the product that they might not be insurmountable? You might be keen to fix them, you might be able to fix them, but it might be a money thing, I don't know. But are you seeing any restrictions within the product that are on your roadmap to fix? Is there any way that that at the moment you're seeing limitations with your customers?
I wouldn't say that we have internal sort of any form of restrictions that we're seeing, because for us it's just about keep on scaling AWS. But what we do see in terms of restrictions is, if you look at the 2 main email service providers being Gmail and Outlook, they definitely have been introducing restrictions over the last 2 years. And what that means is that the old way of doing essentially any form of cold emailing, meaning sending a bunch of templates, that will go away over time. Because right now Google's using their own model, being Gemini, to then figure out if a single company is sending the same email and sending that across the user base. And then if that email, that content receives a lot of spam reports, then these emails start landing in spam. So essentially, static content will become a big problem. Essentially, it is already a big problem, but it will become even a bigger problem over time. So what that means is that the way that I look at the world of communication, or just generally email, is that really that every user will eventually start receiving a uniquely crafted email that's designed just for them, using generative AI, and we just do that in the world of sales, really. So we see that, those restrictions are already in place. We see more restrictions coming out. Literally just next week, there's another big announcement by Google, and we expect a lot more also next year. So it's going to be tougher and tougher to be generating sales through an outbound motion. But we're designing essentially the whole software stack around those changes.
I got you. And maybe that's relevant to my next question, which is, you're operating a pretty lean team at the moment, right? So you've only got 2 people in the sales function. As an entire team, how big are you at the moment?
26 people.
Oh, you're 26 people. Okay, so you've grown quite aggressively. If I'm thinking about a $10 million funding round on a business that's grown from, call it $14K to $235,000 MRR this year, what do you need 10 million for? Is there a world in which you guys outscale yourself, you reach profitability relatively quickly, and you grow organically, considering the rate of growth that you've got? What do you want to allocate that cash to?
So we were actually always profitable since day 0.
Right.
And the reason why we're raising around is to actually accelerate what we call our mode 1. So these multiple products. And we're doing a bit of what we call a land grab. So the more products we build, the faster we grow. They typically say the more code we ship, the faster we grow, which is pretty true in our business. And what we're looking to is just 5x the engineering product team, to just ship a lot more product, and build out that ecosystem, that sort of what we call the Apple experience, where you're using a fully integrated stack. You're just going to one vendor which provisions a lot of these different softwares to help you build pipeline with the least headcount, as I said, possible, and doing so with the highest probability using big data behind the scenes. So it's the acceleration, really, because we could just continue doing as is and just grow nicely, but it's really raising around to accelerate.
Got you. My last question, and you semi-answered it there, but I want to ask the question anyway. What does product development look like for you guys over the next 12 months? What is it that you want to concentrate on, and what for you is the biggest focus right now in terms of product?
So we currently have 4 softwares. So we have what we call the mothership product. So that's Salesforge. This is where you execute for now via email, in the future via LinkedIn and voice. And then around that, we're building other different what we call forges, and they're all designed with for a specific use case in mind, whether that's infrastructure, email warm-up, etc. But in the future, we're going to build another 4 softwares that we want to deliver within 12 to 18 months. So that means an ecosystem of 8 softwares, and we expect customers to be buying about 3 to 4 softwares on average. And we're following a concept that's called the software compound model by Rippling, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're stacking software on top of each other, and we're selling that to the same user. And that's not something that we're seeing in the space. And then we're just looking to accelerate that to solve what we call the fragmentation problem. Because ultimately, a customer today just uses a bunch of different point solutions. And each solution raises a ton of money. And then you end up, integrating together. It's just very expensive as well to be running all these solutions, where each of those solutions typically charges per user, whereas we charge based on consumption. So this is another way how we differentiate in the market, and we just believe, in this sort of also meaner sales stack that companies will be using in the future.
Amazing. Well, I think we've reached the end of our time there, mate, and I don't want to keep everyone for longer than we need to, because I'm sure they've had a long day with looking at all the pitches. But really appreciate it. Good luck with the funding round. I'm sure you won't need it. I've seen your numbers, so which are pretty exceptional, right? So I'm sure you won't need too much luck, but I'll give it to you anyway. But we'll leave it there. But really appreciate talking to you today.
Thanks, Leva. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.